everyone, and welcome back to the Polyglot Grind. In this video, I'm going to talk about the world's hardest language, but contrary to popular belief, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the world's hardest language because it's just literally impossible for that to exist. Because, say for example, as an English speaker, you could look at Japanese and you could think, oh wow, Japanese is impossible. Like they have three different alphabets. They use characters. Their grammar is different. There's no way I could learn this. This is the hardest language on earth. But that's not true because if you spoke a language like Korean or something similar to Japanese, then Japanese would not be as hard as if you were an English speaker. And you could be a Chinese speaker and you could look at English and you could be like, wow, this is insane. Like, there's so many different ways so many different spelling rules. Words are not spelt the way they sound and everything, and you could be like, wow, like English is impossible. But then you could take a speaker of a Germanic language, and then they could try and learn English, and it would be a walk in the park because they're slightly similar. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about my experience with the world's hardest language from my perspective. All right, yeah. So, the hardest language I've ever tried to study in my entire life has been hands down Russian. Russian has an alphabet, unlike Mandarin Chinese, because Mandarin Chinese uses characters and so on. But yeah, Russian has an alphabet. So learning to read Russian was not that difficult. But I don't know, learning to like actually spell out these words, it was like being in grade one again. It was just like I don't know, I could read the words, but I could not spell them correctly. I was making like an insane amount of spelling errors. And yeah, the grammar in Russian, I have never experienced something so difficult in my entire life. And that's just from my perspective. As a native English speaker, Russian grammar, well, Slavic grammar, to be more general, is insane. Like, it is so difficult. I'm not trying to discourage people from learning Russian. I learned, when did I start? It was sometime in December, and then I stopped a couple days ago to do the Catalan challenge. But I have every intention to come back to Russian. But like, I don't know, I just wanted to take a break and learn Catalan, and I don't know, it just seemed more interesting right now, and it's a lot easier from a native English speaker's perspective. But yeah, Russian has the seven cases. Um, I could not get my head around that. I could understand a little bit of what people were saying to me, but when I wanted to speak, my grammar was absolutely terrible. And I felt bad for the poor Russian people that had to hear me speak because I was completely destroying their language. But yeah, I found Russian really interesting. I enjoyed listening to the music. I enjoyed hearing Russian. It's a very beautiful language, and I really recommend that people learn it. But I don't know. The only thing that I noticed is it's really time consuming because you really have to get your head around the cases. And when you're learning Russian, you cannot take a grammar based approach because, well, you can try, but I don't know how on earth that anybody can really pull that off. So like I took an input based approach, just like a lot of input, a lot of reading, listening, and watching movies and everything like I always do, because that's the only way I could really see like anybody getting their head around Russian grammar. But yeah, so in my opinion, Russian is the hardest language I've ever learned, but like like only in certain aspects. So like the grammar was difficult, but learning to read was easy. The pronunciation didn't seem that hard. It was mostly just the grammar. So like in my perspective, Russian is the hardest language in my opinion, based on their grammar. And then there's Chinese. Learning to speak Chinese was relatively easy. The tones were not that hard. I know I still make a lot of mistakes with the tones and everything, but I didn't find them that difficult. And also, yeah, like understanding what people were saying was pretty easy. Because contrary to popular belief, if you mess up on the tones in Chinese, people could still understand you. Because if that weren't the case, then when people like sung in Chinese, like when you sing, you don't use like the intonation is different. So if you couldn't understand someone just because of like if Chinese people couldn't understand you just because you messed up on one tone, then Chinese music wouldn't work because they changed the tones to sing. So if you couldn't understand someone just because they messed up one tone, you wouldn't be able to understand a Chinese song. It's mostly context. And what else? Yeah, so speaking Chinese was relatively easy. Chinese grammar was also pretty easy, but the hard part about Chinese was the writing system. Like Chinese has pinyin, but I found that when I were to just read like something in pinyin, I could not understand what they were saying. Like it had to be in the characters, but the characters are unreal. Excuse me. Like I found them fascinating. I really enjoyed learning them, but after like 2 years of studying Chinese, I was still struggling to read like a children's book. Like I had a good amount of characters. Like I could I could talk to Chinese friends on like chat websites or like social media, and we could understand each other like all in Chinese. And I'd have to look up the occasional word every once in a while. But when I pick up a Chinese newspaper or a Chinese children's book, even like a young children's book, I it'd be like every 4 characters I'd be looking up a word in the dictionary or something. Like it was really difficult. So yeah, speaking Chinese was relatively easy. Understanding it was easy. The grammar was easy, but the writing system, as fascinating as it was insanely difficult. So yeah, those are that's my opinion on the world's hardest languages. Uh, Russian because of its grammar, and Mandarin Chinese because of its writing system. And yeah, but like as I was saying at the beginning, the world's hardest language doesn't exist. It's all based on opinion and your native language and the languages you were surrounded by when you grew up and everything. A universal world's hardest language does not exist. But thank you for watching this video.